Hola, Javier. It is a pleasure to be here with you. My name is Laura Espriu, and I work in the talent management team at T-Mobile. And I'm also an avid DE&I advocate, a talent booster, and also a proud Latina working mom. And I'm so pleased to be here today with a pioneer, Xavier Gutierrez. He is the president and CEO of the Arizona Coyotes, and he is also the first Latino CEO in National Hockey League history. We are so thrilled to have you here with us, Javier. Thank you again for making time. So let's start at the beginning, shall we? Can you start by telling us a bit about where you are from and the journey that has led you to where you are today?
Sure. Well, first, Laura, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to get to speak with you. Thank you to T-Mobile for your incredible sponsorship of the Alumni Society. And I do want to thank the wonderful people at the Alumni Society that it's been an organization that I have been engaged with and helped be involved with over the years, and I'm just thrilled to be here. As far as your question, it is the prototypical immigrant story, and I have been very blessed and very honored to live my American dream. I was born in Guadalajara, Mexico, and came to the United States when I was 5 years old. My mom was leaving. She wanted to really focus on giving us an educational path to myself, and at the time she was pregnant with my sister. So we first came to Los Angeles. I went to kindergarten in LA, but really grew up in San Jose, California, and saw Silicon Valley grow in front of my eyes. I tell people now that yes, this tech hub of the world, I saw my elementary school built out of an orange grove. And when I say that to people, they're just looking at me, just puzzled how Silicon Valley could have been actually fields and farms and what have you. But wonderful, my mom got remarried. I'm the oldest of four in total. Education was highly valued, despite the fact that neither of my parents went to college. My two sisters and my brother, we all went to college. We all actually went to Ivy League schools at some point of our academic career. So it was clearly a very valued. I had the great fortune of going to an all-boys Jesuit high school that happens to be the oldest high school in California. And I had a really unique perspective going there because I had classmates all the way up to San Francisco down to Morgan Hill, which if you don't know the Bay Area, that's about 140-mile radius. And the reason that was the case was we had a train stop for Caltrans right at my high school. And I point that out because that really was the first time I saw people from very different socioeconomic backgrounds. I went to school with some of the sons and nephews of these great companies that were in Silicon Valley. And the Jesuits were wonderful to me and my family, and really opened my eyes to opportunities that I had not experienced in my immediate family. From there, had the great fortune of going to Harvard for undergrad, where I really thought I wanted to be an elected official. And then I worked for the youngest mayor in the U.S., a gentleman by the name of Fidel Vargas, who now runs the Hispanic Scholarship Fund. And Fidel, I was his intern. And then afterwards, he made me go to Wall Street. He put me on the path of saying, we need folks that know how to bring capital into our communities. And that really changed my life. I decided that I really had a passion for being a deal maker. And so I went down that path. I graduated, I went to New York. I did a couple of different things there, but all in the finance space. Then returned back to the Bay Area, to Stanford, initially as a JD MBA, so business and law. I ultimately only did the law degree, and that to me, I have still a strong interest on the academic side. At some point, I'd love to be a professor when I'm all done with this craziness. In the early 2000s, I started at a law firm, but quickly realized that I didn't really want to practice law. I moved to Los Angeles with a business plan in mind to start a real estate private equity firm that invested in urban communities, Latino communities in particular around the country, and did that for about 8 years, managing institutional capital of public pension funds and insurance companies. And then from there, I had a meeting with Alex Morello, one of the few Latino billionaires in the US. And he and I had a great conversation initially about what was possible in looking at deals and looking at capital. And so I joined as the head of the Morello Group, his holding company, and I was there for 7.5 years. While I was there, we owned and operated 38 different companies, 7 primary verticals, almost 10,000 employees. And in many instances, we were the largest Latino-owned fill in the blanks. And I was there. We did a lot of acquisitions, and then I wanted to be back in the institutional world. So I joined my good friend and roommate from Stanford, Jose Feliciano, who had started one of the most successful private equity firms in the country, Clear Lake Capital Group. So I joined him and was there for 3 years. And in the interim, Alex Morello and I were still partners on the largest Latino-owned bank in California. And then Alex decided to buy the Arizona Coyotes and enter the sports business, which I knew was something he and his family had wanted to do. And that was a little over a year ago. And Alex started asking me if I liked Arizona and would I ever have an interest. And initially I told him no. But then it became a quite compelling business opportunity and also an opportunity to really make a difference and make an impact. And so I joined about 3.5 months ago and moved myself, my wife, Jerica, my 12-year-old son, Javi. And we're here and very excited to be here and very proud and very honored to be the first Latino president and CEO in the NHL. And I believe one of, I think, 2 Latinos to head a professional sports franchise in the US.
I mean, what can I tell you, Javier? I'm just, I mean, this is truly fantastic. The journey and also the different perspectives that you gain from different paths in that journey, and also that what is possible, right? Mind that you have and that you carry with you, and all the things that you have been doing through your career is just fantastic. So with that in mind, I also, as I mentioned earlier, this year you became the first Latino team president and CEO in HLL history, as you mentioned. So can you share more about what that responsibility carries and what does being the first mean to you?
Sure. Well, I'm very honored. I'm very honored that I have this opportunity. You know, the reason ultimately that Alex Morello was able to convince me, leaving my very dear friend who very successful, I believe Clear Lake has about 24 billion of assets under management at this point. But you know, sports is very unique. Sports is a very high profile business, and it really gives you a chance to have a voice and to have a platform to make a difference. And where I was in my life, that's what I was yearning for, to be able to convene decision makers and to convene around dialogue that will make a difference. And so for me, being the first means I have a opportunity to open doors for others. I have an opportunity to create a pathway. I have always had a passion around the issue of economic empowerment, especially of the Latino community. And to me, part of that really lies in bringing people with diverse voices, diverse backgrounds to the table of decision-making authority. And in sports, I have that opportunity to raise that issue because sports, we're not just in sports, we're also business enterprises. We also leave a business mark because of our outreach to the community, because of our partnership with great brands like T-Mobile that are very, very active in terms of sponsorships in the sports world. And so for me, I get a chance to sit with CEOs and presidents and talk about, okay, what does the sports fan in America really look like? And I've shared this a number of times. We're going to go to, in the words of the great Wayne Gretzky, one of the greatest hockey players ever, we're going to go to where the puck is going. And where is the puck going in America? You know, it's young, it's female, and it's multicultural. And obviously, in a place like Arizona, multicultural is a very large Latino community. And so for us, that is not ancillary to our business plan. That is the business plan. We're going to super serve our incredibly rabid fan base that exists, but we're also going to go where the growth is going. As I always say, I'm going to focus on the Coyote fan in waiting. And I'm excited, and we're excited, and again, we think that just makes business sense. I mean, it's where the growth is, so we're really excited, and that's that. To be able to share that is what being part of the first is all about.
I mean, this is fantastic. And you are so right. If we look into, as you were sharing some statistics, right? Latin X community in US, we are 18% of the population, right? And now that you are talking about Arizona as some of the places where that community really is concentrated too, it's not only, it's also smart to carry this sport business ahead. And I really like what you said about how can you give back to the community, but also how can you use what I'm hearing, your privilege for good, sorry. And how can you use the sport industry to send a strong message about what I'm hearing is our competitive advantage as Latinos as well, right? So your background, that again, fascinating, is in investments and finance and private equity. And you already answered one of my questions, actually. What made you shift your career in a big way into the sport industry? So now I'm curious to hear, now that we have you here, Javier, what advice do you have for those watching you today and who are considering a radical industry shift like you did, and especially given the current climate that we find ourselves today?
Sure. Well, I am a big advocate, especially in the Latino community, of creating an ownership mindset. And what I mean by that is, in whatever realm you're in whatever position you're in, own it, right? Own the opportunity that you have to make a difference in your community, in your corporate world, in your own business. And I think that we need to celebrate that more. We need to expand on that more. The advice I would have is first and foremost, understand the power that you have to make a difference, no matter what position you're in. Whether it be with your own peer group, with those that are coming behind you. I tell people all the time, because they're all like, "Oh, you don't wait till you get to a position like like a president or an owner to have that mentality of saying, I'm going to leave a mark. I'm going to leave an impact," because you are. The roles that you're in, it does leave a difference. And so I tell people all the time, it doesn't need to have a title in order for you to have an executive mindset and an ownership mindset. And so the best advice when people are making these differences, first and foremost, follow your passion. And I know it's hard to say that, because for the most part, we end up as a community, a Latino community, looking at how we can help our families, how we can help our parents, what we can do for our children, what we can do for others. And so absolutely, that is a cultural norm that we have. But also, what is it that you want to accomplish? What is it that you're interested in? And how can you pursue that? And again, I'm not Pollyannish. Not everybody has these amazing, wonderful opportunities. But we all have an opportunity to, in whatever setting we're in, to be able to make a difference for somebody else, to be in the Jesuit ethos, to be a man and woman for others. And that's what I always encourage people to think about. But having said that, if you are in these roles, to also understand your obligation, your responsibility to open doors for others, to be a bridge, to be part of the conversation, to be a voice for the voiceless. And I also encourage executives and owners to think about their obligations and their responsibility to again, be a person for others.
This is fantastic, and we know you are very unapologetic about this, right? And you, as and I hear you talking about these, um, how the economic success of the United States, right, squarely relies on the economic empowerment of Latino, as you are mentioning, and also this ownership mentality that really resonates with me, Javier, because as a Latina myself, an immigrant, and now as a working mother, I can tell you the challenges that we face are unique, right? And seeing someone like you in a position of power, no matter your title or the things that you have gone through, it gives us hope, but it also allows us to see ourselves in those positions of power. It also allows us to see ourselves as we were talking before, right? What is the competitive advantage that I bring to the table instead of feeling that I don't belong here? So thank you so much for sharing that about ownership mentality. It really resonated with me, and I'm sure with so many others. Let me ask you about something that you were saying before. You were talking about Arizona and the Latinx population there. So we know the Arizona Coyotes is a team in a city in which 40% of the population identifies as Hispanics and Latinx. And an important demographic for the Coyotes, right? And the league. I'm sure. We are sure. So how are you planning on involving the community? What are your plans and what are you doing to better reach this community?
Sure. Well, it's funny because there was a reporter who asked me, obviously you're going to go after the Latino community. It's a big part, it's growth. And I said, yeah, but you know what's interesting when you think about these cities that have NHL teams, like LA, or like New York, or like Chicago, or Dallas, and I went on and on and on. And he kind of looked at me, he says, yeah, that sort of relates to the entire league, doesn't it? And I said, yeah, it kind of does. When you look again at the growth in the United States of the labor force, of the
Mm,
consumer, of the business owner, and you look at the Latino community, the overlap is incredible. And that's why I do make that statement. I've said over and over again that if you don't understand that the economic success of the US relies on the economic empowerment of this community, then there are brands out there that do, and they're going to eat your lunch. And I've said that a number of times. And so for us, we're leaning into it, but we're leaning into it in general as we go into non-traditional communities. So young people, female femmes, Laura, you are my target. You are a Latina. You are a woman. You're a mother, right? The family component of hockey and in this sport where you can bring multi-generations to come and enjoy it. You are squarely what I am trying to target. But for us, we have to be three things. We have to be intentional about it. We have to say,
mm-hmm,
this is what we are doing, and these are the initiatives that we're going after. Second, we have
mm-hmm,
to be authentic. And
mm-hmm,
it is authentic for us to say, not just because we're Latinos, but because we understand actually as business people that we're going to go where the growth is. We're going to go where the puck is going. We're going to evaluate and say this is what makes sense from a business perspective.
mm-hmm.
But also, we're going to be innovative. We're going to use technology to reach out to you and to have you engage with us. It's not just about the delivery of the game, of the content, but it's how we say we are community leaders. We are here involved, and we are here to extend our hand to you, the new Coyote fan that is Laura. All right. And that is what we're going to do. So it's really not just one thing, it's all of those things.
The approach that you are taking on this, Javier, is just really, I'm pleased to hear you saying that because, nowadays, I feel like something that we lack is that authenticity piece, right? And hearing you mentioning that, like how can we connect through not only this, we are being very intentional, but also we are going to be authentic. And then the innovation piece that you mentioned last is so important, Javier. And more than ever, you and I, all of us know during these times that we don't even know what to expect anymore. This innovative piece is important, that right, that will allow us to transform ourselves into whatever is coming ahead. So it is powerful. And please consider me your fan as as for now and for the future, and also all my family. So with that, Javier, I also want, and I know we are going to wrap up here. So, I would like to finish with this question, Javier. As we wrap up, I want to end with a call to action, actually, because you look like someone who is all about taking action, but in an intentional way. And that's what I'm really enjoying for this conversation today. So with that in mind, today's event is meant to move Alumni Society members and partners to take action and create change. Change in leadership, in policy, as you mentioned, and in diversity practices, and other areas as well, right? So what would be your call to action from today, Javier?
My call to action, I think, is something that I alluded to, which is I want everyone in the Latino community to embrace a ownership mentality. You are not just a participant in this economic system. You're actually an owner. You're the one that's driving the growth. You're the one that's driving this economy. And that is what's going to create socioeconomic mobility. As an immigrant, I get to talk and share, why did we come here? We came here for my parents seeking a better life for their children, a better opportunity. And it really starts by saying, you belong here. You own this society, this culture, this community. You are absolutely the one that is going to own the future. And so I want the call to action to be an embracing of this entire ownership mindset, this entire ownership mentality. No matter what you do, no matter what are the challenges that you face, always know that you are truly what drives this country.
Oh, fantastic. I mean, with all that inspiration, Javier, I think that's what we all of us, many of us needed to hear, right? How can we keep going even during hard times? And that ownership piece that you mentioned is just key to understand the role that we play here and how much ownership we need to take on the work that we have, right? To be drivers and to be leaders of what is coming ahead. Thank you so much, Javier. I want to end this interview by saying how much we appreciate you sharing your journey today with us, your time, but mostly your passion. And I will make sure that I'm carrying this away. And thank you again. Thank you also, as you said, Alumni Society and everyone watching us today. It has been a pleasure, Javier.
Lara, thank you so much. I really appreciate. Thanks for the opportunity to share my thoughts and to talk with you today. And I'm always such a big fan of the Alumni Society. So thank you.
Thank you.